They get hard after a while, those chairs.
Extremely.
We are back in session, and our next thing on the agenda is Snyder and Associates and McClure for county inspection services on the carbon pipeline.
Good morning.
Good morning, Christina.
Morning.
How are you?
Good. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. You guys have a copy of the modified agreement?
Right, in our folder, I think
Okay.
everybody's had a chance to look at it, and anybody have any questions on it?
Everybody okay? There's one, there's in the one that I caught here, in the scope of work in Exhibit A, there's, in the, let's see, I don't know what page it is, the next to the last page in your packet, it says, the professional will be paid in 30 days of the client receiving payment by the pipeline. I'm gonna strike through that and put 45. If you guys, if you're okay with that?
Yep.
Are you gonna sign it electronically, Roger? Do I need to send it to you?
Whatever you would like.
I can just strike through it and hand you these two?
Yeah, the paper
Yes.
form right there.
Yeah,
Okay,
I'm sure do that. You can do that.
If you got a paper form with you, we will sign
okay.
it after we approve it.
All right, do you have any questions at all?
Go ahead.
You have McClure attached to that now, so does that mean that you're subbing part of that project out, or do they have to answer to you on all the procedures?
They are our sub, but we are in partnership, really. Somebody had to be the prime and somebody had to be the sub.
So you are the prime,
We are the prime,
so any problem will still be directed through Snyder.
absolutely.
They're handling more of the drainage side of it, right?
Right.
McClure.
Just for
Yeah.
for clarification.
We didn't spell that out in the contract because we didn't want to lock it in. Because if there may be a day that I'm shorthanded and McClure can send somebody out to help me and vice versa, that's what we'll do.
Okay.
But primarily McClure will be doing drainage, Snyder will be doing the other land agreements and all the other land restoration.
And then just one other quick question, maybe you can answer. So we just heard that a road was closed due to a fiber optic bore, probably the size of 4 inches. What's a 30-inch bore gonna do to our county infrastructure?
Well, if they run the 30-inch through a culvert or through, a drain tile and collapse it, then your road's gonna collapse, more than likely.
There's no way to know of that damage from the bore or visually see it until it takes place.
That's right. Because when they bore, you don't have the visual. So the mapping is very, very important. Anything else? Okay.
Do I have a motion to approve the agreement?
I'll make the motion to approve the
Pardon?
agreement with Snyder Associates.
I'll second.
Stecker? Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried unanimous.
Just a quick update, I don't know if you all are aware that the hearing for Summit Carbon Solutions has been scheduled to begin in October of 2023. You are aware, okay? And apparently, the IUB has replaced the chairman of,
Correct.
you've heard that too. You guys are more up on news than I am. I'm gonna have to start coming here so I can catch up.
Not the ideal time to have a meeting.
Yeah.
No, that's not gonna go over well.
Christina's one for us and one for you.
That's one for Summit and one for Navigator.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I make copies?
We were having a very hard time finding an attorney that was willing to work
Really?
the IUB for $150,000 a year or something like that. And it had to be from the other political party, because I think they had 2 Republicans, so they need a Democrat.
But I thought the one that was nominated was a Republican.
There's actually 2.
Okay.
Are you okay with me?
Absolutely, yes ma'am.
2 openings probably.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'll make copies quick.
all right, I guess I'm done in the hot seat here.
Oh.
You guys,
Got any other information for us?
any other information, let me see.
We
Not that I
got
can think of, there,
13 minutes for you to fill with pipeline
okay,
facts.
well, Navigator, is still not releasing their Exhibit H documents, so we don't have any idea of what they have for easements at all. Nobody really knows.
I think they're still early in that from what I've heard, but
There is an attorney in Storm Lake named John Murray, who is holding landowner meetings on the Navigator pipeline. If any of your landowners are interested, I can provide some information on that.
I haven't heard that.
I
Yeah,
hadn't heard that either.
he's doing it voluntarily. It's not a solicitation for business. He's not charging anything for it. It's just informational, you know.
Haven't heard a lot about people being contacted for easements yet in the Navigator.
Oh, I have.
They've been out.
Yeah, they've been out. I don't know how many they're visiting a day or anything like that, but they have been out.
Yeah, I know they're doing surveys down in Polk County. I heard yesterday, I got an email saying that they were out surveying in Polk. So,
I think Navigator's gonna be primarily in your area, isn't it?
It's entirely in my district, yeah.
They were out doing engineering
Yeah.
studies last year.
Oh, there's people getting,
doing the
Haven't-
topsoil
well,
stuff.
there's people having meetings with their, representatives for easements 4 weeks ago,
Yeah, I'm sure.
maybe 5.
That attorney, John Murray, thinks that Navigator is probably not gonna get a hearing until the spring of '24.
I don't think they're pushing for one, really.
I don't either. I think they've got issues in other states that they're trying to address, to be honest with you. So,
I mean, from the feeling I have, I feel like they're comfortable staying behind Summit in the timeline. I don't think they're trying to race them.
they're letting Summit set all the precedents and do everything, and then they're just gonna follow it behind and probably quickly get a permit. You know, it'd probably be a lot faster process for them.
We were waiting for the state to make up their mind for us and say that they were gonna pass something,
Yeah.
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 but they chickened out.
Well, it did make it through the House anyway.
Yeah,
Yep,
but it made it a lot easier for the county if we would have had
yeah,
something.
it would have, sure would have. You guys are working with Tim Whipple, aren't you? A little bit? Yeah. Good.
Have we heard anything in regards to Shelby County and when that result will come out? I know that's the
I
same.
asked once and they said they couldn't give me any information because it was
Yeah.
still
Let me
in
check on that.
negotiations.
I just knew it was gonna be soon,
Yeah.
the city made.
So they working with a moderator, a mediator or something, or?
A lawsuit,
Well,
they
yeah,
were suing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we don't know what the outcome of that is yet.
I don't unless it'd be pretty recent if it was.
I'll find out.
Steve Kinkle had told me a couple weeks ago that it was gonna be within the next few weeks, you know, however
Yeah.
that was.
Isn't Hardin County involved in that too?
No,
No, just their county.
Okay.
But they-
Story also is in the lawsuit.
but they're doing one at a time.
Story has a different ordinance. They did not base theirs on Shelby. Story's in legal proceedings with Summit and Navigator. Shelby is only in proceedings with Summit.
Well, I know many counties have passed ordinances, and I also know that one of our counties is actually setting fines already. They've established monetary fines for any infraction listed in 199, chapter 9. You know, they went ahead and just set the monetary value.
Mhm.
You know, if you mix the soil and subsoil, topsoil and subsoil, then you're gonna get charged $2,500 for each instance. You're gonna do, you know, if you do this, it's gonna be X amount. It's just, whether they can enforce that, I don't know.
That was,
But, you know, they seem to, you know, have a good time setting the fine, so I just
199, chapter 9.
199, IAC, chapter 9. That's the restoration of agricultural lands.
Okay,
And then if you wanna look at Iowa Code, section 459B.20, that's gonna be, Iowa Code, that's the same thing.
okay.
I think I quoted that right, let me see. I can just rattle it off when I'm not thinking about it. Yeah, that's right, 479B,
I had 459, so 479.
479, I'm sorry, yeah, it is 479. And 199 IAC, chapter 9. Those are good ones to read up and know about.
So the first 199 is in the administrative code?
Yes,
Okay, nice,
chapter 9.
okay.
9.4 and 9.5 specifically are.
No update on Shelby yet.
No. Anything else? Anybody have any questions? Okay. As soon as they start, well, if they get a permit and they start staking, that's when we're planning on making our appearance in the county as far as on the right of way. We hope to, well, we will get out while they're staking and do photographs, pre-construction photographs to document the pre-construction condition of the land.
So are we gonna contact you, or is Summit gonna
I've
contact
been in
you?
contact with Summit. I had a meeting with them 2 weeks ago to discuss their execution plan, how they're planning on attacking the work. And I know that they've got one contractor hired for the main line. It's a union contractor. They're not from here, but they're a union contractor. And they'll be doing all the main line. The branch lines, the branch that goes on the west end of the state, on the west side, that runs down to Shelby County, that was gonna be by another contractor. And then the walking man is what they call it, the lateral that goes in the middle of the state, that's gonna be another contractor. So we know that they're gonna start in the east and work towards the west.
So they aren't going to be sectionalizing they're gonna start in.
They're gonna
as they go.
start, they have 2 crews that'll start, one will start in the far east and one will start midway. And both of those crews will work to the west, okay? And then
Oh, so one will start in the middle of the state?
yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
they will piece it out in
they'll
half.
have 2 spreads going at once,
So
yeah.
likely Kossuth County will be one of the starting points?
Quite possibly,
Oh,
quite possibly, yeah. I wanna say it was further west was gonna be the second starting point. Obviously, one will start in Chickasaw County,
right,
and it may be Kossuth.
because we're the middle.
Yeah, I think it's probably you guys.
Oh,
It'll be, yeah. And then they haven't hired the other two contractors yet. They're still taking bids or whatever. So,
So they're not the main contractor is probably not subbing out any of the
No.
main line. Okay.
no, it sounds like it'll just be their crews. And also we discussed schedule. They said they thought they would probably start in May of '24.
May next year.
But I'm kind of looking more towards, I'm preparing for April or even March.
24.
Because I think they'll have their survey crews out that soon and that means we need to be ready to go to work then. So,
Christina, is there anything you need from me?
I know are you getting easements? Are easements being filed in the courthouse? They aren't
I
finding
haven't
any easements.
I haven't seen anything.
Really?
They don't have many easements in Kossuth County.
Right. Well, we've got record of the Exhibit H properties. We're keeping a spreadsheet of those, so, unless you're,
Unless Doug has something, but I haven't seen
yeah, okay.
Well, we haven't even got our zoning ordinance all completed yet.
Right, you still got a ways to go, so I will need a copy of that.
Yes.
Your district crossing permit, whatever that looks like, I'll need a copy of that. Any resolutions or anything like that concerning, everything concerning the pipeline is what I'll need.
Do you have a copy of our drainage crossing?
I don't think I do, maybe I do, yes, I
You
do,
do? Okay.
yeah, I do, because I got it from Dan. Yep,
Anything you need, give us a whistle.
Yeah,
okay, all right, I appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
You guys
Thanks
have
for
a great
coming.
day, have a good week.
thanks, Christina. Okay, so, the best way to do the changes to the minutes that we made is to write it on the existing copy with why we did it, so that we're not reprinting another one and there's no notes. So that's what I did, so I'll pass, before anything gets signed, I'll pass it down for you guys to look at and make sure that that's accurate and what you want, and then you can let me know. Is that accurate, Kyle?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
you guys want to see that?
and then we can sign if everybody's there. I'm gonna go get my folder for Elizabeth to bring that in.
Good morning.
Do you guys wanna call Todd and Roger and let them know that Elizabeth is here?
So, 141, for sure. Hey, we are up to the audit report. If you wanted to come up for that, you can. Shortly here, yeah, a couple minutes. Perfect, see ya. And then, did she say for Roger Fisher? Two? I don't know. I think he's.
Oh wait,
Jack.
Jack, that's his name.
Jack, good.
Sign at 401.
So how's everything out in eastern Iowa?
Pardon?
How's everything in eastern Iowa?
It is busy but good,
Good?
yeah. The weather's getting nice, so that's,
Yeah.
Next.
We're almost right on time. Closest it's gonna get here.
Roger, you think we need to call anyone else? Roger Fisher did not answer.
Didn't he?
He had said he was heading out before we talked about policy, so. Tammy, do I need to call anyone else?
I think so.
Okay.
oh, wonderful, okay.
Do you want all of us to sign this?
Yes, please.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that's called. Is it?
This is next up.
Yeah.
We're signing minutes yet. We'll be done in a second.
Whenever you're ready. I know you're so excited to go.
We
over
are.
this. It's
Just-
such interesting stuff.
Can't
I
wait.
mean,
You probably already read it cover to
how
cover
could
at
you
least
get
3
a
times.
more interesting read than you are?
Now, it was exciting this year. There's a lot of new things this year, so.
Yeah, there was some new things in there, yeah. I actually have own property now, and it's documented. There you go.
Thank you very much.
I know.
We are up to our time with Gardner and Company for FY 21-22.
Oh,
Okay, well.
And I will turn it over to you, Elizabeth.
We're gonna have to get the right, they're gonna have to spot.
You are special.
Oh, wow.
We'll just go ahead and we'll go through the book and we'll kind of hit the highlights and we'll, there is a lot of new things to kind of go through, this year. We had alternative procedures instead of a single audit. We got to implement GASB 87 with the leases. And then on our end, we also had to implement some new auditing standards, which kind of changes the way that the report looks a little bit, add some additional verbiage, and we had to do some additional test work with that. So we can start on page 2, which is on Gardner and Company letterhead. This is the independent auditor's report. This is the audit report for the fiscal year ended June 30 of 2022. The purpose of an audit is to opine on whether or not financial statements are fairly presented. The audit does not have anything to do with finding fraud or finding errors or irregularity. It is just designed to determine whether or not the financial statements are fairly presented. For this fiscal year, we have issued an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which is what you want to hear. It means it's a clean opinion. We did have some material adjustments that were found during our audit test work. We proposed adjusting journal entries for those items which were made by the county so that all of the transactions are properly included then in the financial statements that are here. Again, the audit is based on tests and samples. We don't look at every single transaction that goes through the county during the fiscal year, and then we opine based on that. Now, the audit report looks a little bit different this year. The opinion is right there in the front. It also talks about an emphasis of matter. The county did implement GASB statement number 87 in regards to leases for this fiscal year. So the board went ahead and adopted a right to use lease asset policy, setting that threshold of reporting at $50,000. So that any leased assets that you have out there then over that $50,000 threshold will be reported along with the liability that goes along with that. On the other side of that, if the county is a lessor, if you're renting out farm ground, and have a lease arrangement, there's a spreadsheet that Tammy gets to fill out that determines whether or not those transactions are a lease, and if they are, then they are presented in the financial statements. So that was new, implemented for fiscal 22. Also then, with the auditing standards that we were required to implement, we're also required to be independent from the beginning of the engagement to the end of the engagement and document that independence. And that is both in fact and appearance. So there's different precautions that we have to take, different steps that we have to take to maintain that our staff, everybody that's assigned to this engagement, is independent. So we've got a blurb about that in here also. Also, something new that we're required to talk about in the auditor's report is whether or not the county looks to be able to continue in business for a reasonable period of time after the issuance of the audit report. So we did additional analysis of the fund balance to determine that there wasn't going to be a going concern problem within the next 12 months. So that's disclosed in the audit report, and again, that is something new for this fiscal year as well. So on page 5, we start with the management's discussion and analysis. This is the county's opportunity to talk about financial highlights during the year. It also talks about the pieces that are included in this annual report. This annual report includes 3 different sets of financial statements. There's the full accrual financial statements, which is most likely what you would see in the private sector, and includes all capital assets and long-term liabilities. There's also a modified accrual set of financial statements, which mirrors what Tammy is required to submit to the Department of Management, known as the GAAP report. So that particular set of financial statements does not include the capital assets and the debt. And then also, because the county budgets on the cash basis, we do have a budget to actual for the governmental funds to present that as well. So that management's discussion analysis goes ahead and explains all that. It also gives some comparative information comparing fiscal 22 to fiscal 21. There's some budgetary highlights, and then there's an opportunity to talk about the mindset and some of the goals and factors when you were looking at fiscal 23's budget. So the actual financial statements for the county then start on page 13. And we start with a statement of net position, which is shown as Exhibit A, and a statement of activities, which is shown as Exhibit B. Now, these are your full accrual financial statements, so they're gonna mirror what you would see in the private sector. Your statement of net position is gonna mirror a balance sheet. Your statement of activities is going to mirror what you would see for an income statement. We do present the governmental activities along with the business type activities, the business type activities being the transfer station, so they are presented separately. Also something that is unusual for this year, IPERS did really, really well, and IPERS had a really good year. IPERS ended up being funded over 100% for the fiscal year. So normally when we're looking at this statement of net position, we see a net pension liability. This year, there is a net pension asset of $1.1 million. And like I said, that is due to the success that IPERS had with their investments. So for this reporting period, they were over 100% funded. So instead of showing a liability, we are showing an asset there. So again, something that's different from prior years. Also shown that's different, we have a lease receivable, and then we also have deferred lease-related inflows. Again, that goes back to the implementation of GASB 87, so that's new. And those two things net to zero because your lease receivable and your deferred inflows are both $62,142. So then as that lease progresses and the payments are received, then that's going to go ahead and that'll go to zero until the lease is renewed. So then on Exhibit B, which is pages 15 and 16, that's our statement of activities for the whole county for this fiscal year. The change in net position for the whole county was a little over $1.1 million, so that's positive balance. The county continues to pay down ARPA money that's been sitting there waiting to be spent, so it was a good year to spend down that as well. Also, we had quite a few projects going through the FM account with the DOT, so there was about $4.4 million that was recognized this year as a capital grant contributions and restricted interest. So that's kind of the highlight for those two pages. Okay, following that then we have Exhibit C and Exhibit E, which are your modified accrual financial statements. They mirror what Tammy has submitted to the Department of Management. And then Exhibit D and Exhibit F, those show the reconciliation on how you get from the modified accrual financial statements to the full accrual. So you can go through that step by step and see how all of that works to get from one basis of accounting to the other. For your proprietary funds, those financial statements are on Exhibit G, H, and I. We have a column for the transfer station and then also a column for your employee group health insurance fund. Health insurance remains to be something that's very tricky to budget for. You are self-funded, so that puts an extra burden. You also have a wonderful plan that does not require your employees to contribute anything, and that is huge. I think of all the counties that we deal with and do audit and consulting services, I believe you are the only remaining county of the counties that we deal with that do not ask for an employee contribution for part of that. So that is huge. That is a huge benefit to your employees. This year there was a little bit of a loss. It kind of fluctuates year to year based on what your claims are, but again, still a $2.8 million balance at the end of the year. So very positive things there. Exhibit J and Exhibit K then, these are the fiduciary funds. These are the funds that the county is the fiscal agent for, such as your schools, your townships, your corporations, where you're collecting those dollars and then remitting them. Your assessor, your 911 are also in there. So this Exhibit J gives a snapshot of where you were at June 30th. Exhibit K gives a snapshot of all the dollars that flow in and out of the county during this fiscal year. So then the notes to financial statements start on page 32. I'm going to skip over most of these unless you have questions about them. The notes just go ahead and provide the accounting policies and procedures. There's a lot of accounting definitions defining the terms that you're seeing in the financial statements. There are several pages in the pension plan part of it that's actuarial information. We receive from the actuary that does the evaluation for IPERS, and then they provide us about 5 pages of information to be included in your audit report for their actuarial background. Same with the OPEB. They go ahead and provide us that actuarial information there. I do wanna go ahead and talk about the notes that are on page 60. Actually, it starts on page 59 and goes into page 60. Note 17 talks about the closing of the mental health fund. During this fiscal year, Senate File 619 required that Fund 10, or the mental health fund, be eliminated. So at June 30th, there was a check cut to your mental health region to close out that fund. So this note just kind of goes ahead and documents that. Your fund balance at the end of the year, as you can see on page 60, was 0. So everything was closed out, everything is going through the mental health region. So lots of changes with that as well. At the bottom of this page, we have an opioid litigation settlement. On December 20th, the state auditor's office went ahead and provided guidance on how they wanted that handled. They went ahead and they compiled the information that was required to be included for each county as far as what you're gonna receive over the next 17 years for those payments. They did have us amend the gap report. The gap report was due December 1st. This information came out December 20th. So they did ask that we go ahead and amend the gap report and the financial statements to make sure that these opioid settlement amounts are included. So Tammy has established a fund. It's a special revenue fund to collect these in. She'll be receiving payments for the next 17 years, and there's very specific guidelines on what these funds can be used for. So going forward, we'll get to deal with that, so. On page 62, we have our budgetary comparison schedule of the receipts and disbursements. This is the cash basis comparison. The amounts in the actual column are the actual dollars that flowed in and out of the governmental funds during the fiscal year. The column that's titled less funds not required to be budgeted is your drainage, because drainage is not required by the code to be budgeted. So that's what flowed in and out, cash basis for that. That gets us to the net. And then we present the original budget, we also present the final amended budget, and then any variances. So, you know, at the end of the year, we're doing analytical procedures looking at these variances, and, you know, for instance, the capital projects variance for the disbursement side, that's a 2.5, almost $2.6 million variance, but the explanation with that is, you know, projects never go the way you think they're going to, and you as the board are making amendments and making adjustments to allow for those expenditures, and they don't always happen. So even though that's a large variance, there isn't a red flag attached with that at all. So there were explanations for all of the large variances. Also, you know, large variance on the intergovernmental receipts, a lot of that has to do with state of Iowa funding. Grants never seem to come when you expect them to. So again, you're amending your budget to include those things, and you might not always get them before that June 30th cutoff. So again, you know, everything was explained, no red flags there. The pages following that then are some additional required supplementary information talking about the budget, also talking about the IPERS and how it's funded. On page 65, you can see that is an IPERS disclosure for some required supplementary information. There's that 100%, it was 100.81% funded for this reporting period. So it'll be interesting to see what that does for next year, to see if it remains funded at that level or if we're gonna see a decrease, because it was a rather large jump to go from 82.9% funded to up over 100% funded. So it'll be interesting to see what the actuaries give us for information on that next year. So, okay, then the pages following that, again, some additional supplementary information for the pension and OPEB. Following that, we've got schedules 1 and 2, which are the supporting schedules for the non-major governmental funds. So all of those smaller funds that don't get presented by themselves at the beginning of the book, they have their detail presented here. And then the same for schedule 3 and 4 with the custodial funds. You can see the ins and outs for all of the funds that the county is a fiscal agent for. And then schedule 5, puts it on page 83 and 84. That gives you the governmental revenues and expenditures for the last 10 years. So you can kind of see some trends and kind of see some, what's been going on for the last 10 years. So then that brings us to another piece of Gardner and Company letterhead, which is on page 85. And this is the independent auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting and on compliance. So in addition to opining on whether or not the financial statements are fairly presented, we also do some Code of Iowa compliance test work and some internal control test work. Again, this is all based on tests and samples. We don't look at every single transaction that might have impacted these findings. And then we report based on our test work. So this goes ahead and leads us into the findings. And the findings for this year's audit start on page 87. The first one is segregation of duties. It's in every single audit report we issue. It's just because the way local government is established in the state of Iowa, you don't have enough employees on staff to completely segregate all of the duties. So there's a possibility that one employee would go ahead and handle a transaction from its inception to its completion. The department heads and elected officials get to fill out this really fun internal control questionnaire every year, and it kind of gives suggestions on, you know, what you can do to maximize the internal control within your departments. So we talk a little bit about that. Cross-training is huge. The supervisors looking at the claims is huge because ultimately you are the ones approving what's gonna be paid out. So actually looking at those claims is a huge part of this process. The next finding is preparation of full disclosure financial statements. This is in probably 98% of the reports that we issue, and it's because you don't have a CPA on staff that prepares your GAAP report for the external reporting to the Department of Management, and also for the full accrual reporting that's included in this book, which includes the financial statements and then all of the footnote disclosures. So because we help you with that, we're required to go ahead and have a finding in regards to that. Now, as far as our independence, you know, we have to maintain independence through this process. So we go ahead and we propose adjusting journal entries, we don't make them. That's all on the county, whether or not they choose to make those adjusting journal entries. So, you know, that decision is left up to management. And then after the financial statements are drafted, we do go ahead and send that draft to Tammy, and it goes through an approval process where she's required to review, approve, and take responsibility of those financial statements. So that helps us maintain our independence. So the next finding that we have is in regards to financial reporting. This year we had material amounts of receipts, infrastructure, construction in progress, and then of course the opioid settlement that hadn't been reported. Now the opioid settlement one was out of the county's control because again, that information did not become available until December 20th, so you couldn't have recorded it June 30th if you didn't have the information. So that one's kind of a, I don't know, have to have it in there though. And then also with the construction in progress, that one is not a large, you know, concern either. Secondary roads tracks all of their projects, they just don't input them all into that GASB 84 Service Bureau report, GASB 34 Service Bureau report until those are closer to completion, so. But again, those adjustments were made, you know, everything that needed to be included was. The statutory findings then start on page 89. We did have a finding with the budget. The disbursements during the year ended June 30, 2022 didn't exceed the amounts budgeted by service area, but there was one department that was over during the year for the amounts appropriated, and that was the relief for the poor department. So, you know, just encourage the departments to keep an eye on those appropriation reports and let Tammy know if they're feeling that they're gonna need to do, you know, an appropriation adjustment. You can increase or decrease appropriations during the year without a budget amendment, as long as you don't increase the service area budget. So, you know, that's always an option, so those departments just need to keep an eye on those and be communicating with Tammy if amendment or an appropriation change is necessary. The next finding that we have is questionable expenditures. And questionable expenditures have been a hot topic with our state auditor's office, who is our oversight. That's something that they are really encouraging the counties to document public purpose for all of those disbursements. So in our test work, we did identify 3 of these questionable expenditures to be reported. Meals, there was an unknown charge that was unsubstantiated on a hotel bill, and again, meals. So, you know, other items that we see with other counties include interest fees, late charges, that type of thing on credit cards. You know, and the recommendation is that the supervisors just need to review these expenditures and determine if there is proper public purpose, and then, you know, be documenting that. So as you're going through the claims, every claim session, you know, just make sure that there's public purpose for those expenditures that are, you know, being approved. Further down on that page then with the business transactions, we disclosed related party transactions. The Code of Iowa identifies $6,000 as the threshold for a potential conflict of interest. We do have one that is over that $6,000 threshold, But, the related party did not participate in the acquisition of the services, and so that is one of the things that the code allows. So that we can go ahead and still do business with those local businesses. You just have to make sure that you're following the requirements of the code. So, because everything was appropriate, this is just a disclosure, there's no finding associated with it. We're on page 91 then. I do wanna stop and talk about the restricted donor activity. This is also something that our state auditor's office has been very vigilant on, and this is in regards to chapter 68B of the Code of Iowa, which is the gift law. This applies to all government employees, elected officials, department heads, anybody that is employed by Kossuth County. Now, the gift law says that you cannot accept a gift over $2.99. So that includes, vendors cannot take you out for dinner. Vendors cannot buy you presents. We also have supply companies that like to go ahead and if you order X number of dollars, they're gonna throw in a free Starbucks card or they're gonna throw in free whatever. There's a couple supply companies that we've run into this year that are really good at that, and the counties always need to be taking the discount, cause it's either the gifts or the discount, so always make sure you're taking the discount. Don't let vendors go ahead and, pick up the tab for you for lunch. I will tell you that there were several instances of this reported to both my office and the state auditor's office. When we investigated those claims, those transactions did not happen in fiscal 22, they happened in fiscal 21. So that's why we don't have a finding for this particular situation, because it was outside of the scope. It had happened prior to the scope of this audit. This audit went from July 1st of 2021 through June 30 of 2022. The transactions that have been mentioned weren't within that time period, so therefore we don't have a finding. But like I said, we did have several phone calls to both my office and the state auditor's office with concerned citizens calling in and reporting different things. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody was aware. It might be something the supervisors want to have a department head meeting. I know several department heads are in this room right now, so I know they're getting that information. If there's ever any questions or concerns, go ahead and give me a call. But it is, again, something the state auditor's office has been very vigilant with and has encouraged us to be vigilant with as well. So even though there isn't a finding for the time period we're covered, I just wanted to make sure that it was brought to your attention so that you were aware that there had been phone calls made and that there were concerns. So that way you can address them and move forward. Okay, so then the next finding we have then is on the board minutes.
Can I interrupt you a minute?
Yeah.
Bond coverage, the one right underneath that, we talked about our bond coverage before, but we've never done anything. I think we're at 50,000.
And the code hasn't changed on that.
It hasn't.
It hasn't.
Okay.
And so it's what your comfort level is. And I have counties with a wide range of what they feel is appropriate for the bond coverage. So ultimately, as long as you're in compliance with the code, I'm gonna be fine with it. It's kind of what your comfort level is as supervisors. If you feel that that needs to be increased or adjusted, you absolutely can do that at any point in time.
Okay, so it is all over the board as far as coverage.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing consistent, I should say. Okay.
No, yeah, like I said, it comes down to as long as you're complying with the code, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna pass the muster for audit, so. Okay, so then for the board minutes, there was a closed session on January 18th of 22, and the minutes didn't include the documentation of the roll call vote. Now, with the open meeting laws, this is also something you wanna be very careful with. Chapter 21.5 of the code very specifically lays out the requirements for a closed session. So a lot of times I think those roll call votes are happening, it's just the way the minutes are worded. So you need to make sure that the minutes document what actually happened, so. But again, we probably just happened to pick the one closed session too, because again, this is based on tests and samples, we don't look at every single one, so, we just reported on what we had tested on. The next finding that we have is on page 92, and that's in regards to the sheriff's separately maintained account. It is still a commissary profit account that is over there and maintained separately. It's been there for a long time, I don't anticipate it's gonna move, so we're gonna continue to have this finding, so. Again, like I said, talked about it, not much more to say about it. With the financial assurance, with the transfer station and the landfill, this is something, they go ahead and they estimate your post-closure costs every year. We compare it to what you have in that restricted general ledger fund. Doug's, I know, gonna make a transfer and it's gonna be all fine. Right now, it showed that the estimated costs were $540,000 and you had $525 in that restricted fund, so I'm sure that transfer's probably already been made, done, probably. So again, not concerned with that. On page 93, we have the financial position footnote. We did have a couple funds that had a deficit fund balance at June 30th. One of them is drainage, and it's because of the amount of stamped warrants that you have. Ultimately, you're gonna collect those drainage assessments, you're gonna pay off those warrants and the interest, and that will, eventually go away. With the Buffalo Township Urban Renewal Fund, there's an interfund loan that is triggering that, and as the TIF is collected and the loan is paid back, that will come back into the black. And then with the capital projects fund, it's just the way the funding process works with your capital projects. You're either waiting for grants, you're waiting for reimbursements, so again, that one is gonna go away as well, so. And then the last finding we have that's in the report is in regards to donations. And the state auditor's office has provided their interpretation that donations to private not-for-profits are not allowable. There's no public purpose for them. So instead, they're looking at agreements for services. So this particular one that was identified in the audit is to the Algona Chamber of Commerce. So if they're providing, a service, if they're, doing, the recommendation is to go ahead and have an agreement in place with the Algona Chamber of Commerce, that they're providing some sort of service. It needs to be specific what they're doing. You pass that agreement and then this finding won't happen again either. So, but the code prohibits donations or contributions to not-for-profits, so. And that, again, I think that had been a concern last year. It was a non-report concern last year. I think there was just this one that didn't get an agreement put in place before the donation was made, so therefore it's included in the audit report. So, questions, concerns? There were other little items that were discussed with the related departments as we went through the audit process, but weren't significant enough to be included in the audit report, so. And if we see something that another county is doing that's working for them, we're definitely gonna share that information and provide that with the respective elected official, department head, whatever, so. We wanna make things as easy as possible. I do also wanna talk a little bit about the alternative compliance engagement agreement that was required to be performed. This year, Kossuth County spent $1.1 million worth of the American Rescue Plan funding. Now, in the past, you have to have a single audit if you spend over $750,000 in federal money during the fiscal year. Well, because there's so many little, smaller governments that have never had to have a single audit, that are now having to have a single audit, the OMB, which is our oversight over the federal dollars, they decided that they were gonna offer another alternative to that. And the alternative to that was to have test work performed on just the American Rescue Plan expenditures. So as a whole, Kossuth County spent $1.5 million of federal money during that fiscal year. But 1.1 million of it was the ARPA. So had you not had those ARPA expenditures, you wouldn't have had to have a single audit. And because your award for the ARPA was under $10 million, you met the requirements to be able to do the alternative compliance engagement agreement, which is what we did. So we came in, we looked at your procurement policy, and then we did a sample of the American Rescue Plan expenditures to document that they were being spent for appropriate purposes. And then also Tammy got to do a submission with the federal clearinghouse to record that. So there was an independent accountant's report that was issued stating what we did for procedures and what we looked at. And then also I helped and assisted with the submission for the federal clearinghouse. So there is a data collection form now on the federal website that does document that Kossuth County spent $1.1 million of the American Rescue Plan funding during that fiscal year. So that will continue throughout the tenure of the ARPA funds until they're all spent. So, looking at fiscal 23, if you're spending the majority of your ARPA funds and you wouldn't have qualified for a single audit unless you had that, it'll be the same rules then again next year, so you'll just have to do the alternative compliance agreement instead of the big single audit, so much better. Tammy's much happier with that, so a lot less reporting required. So any other questions or concerns?
Any of the department heads have any questions?
Okay.
You must have done an awful good job.
Well, I tried to keep it short and sweet, but I know you got two newbies too, so I wanna make sure they get all their questions answered. I know it's a lot of information for them too.
You guys have any questions for Elizabeth?
It's a lot of
You're not
information.
You can call me anytime if you think of something too, so.
If not, let the record show that Gardner and
Do
Company
we have
gave
to-
us a report.
No, we don't have to.
Do you have to make any action? Okay.
So the record will show that you were here, gave us a
Fantastic.
report. Thank you much, Elizabeth.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
Elizabeth.
I'm gonna go, Melissa had questions too, so
Yes, sounds good.
I'll be around for a little bit.
Okay, thanks. Elizabeth.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You bet. How are you?
Mike Kaler get a hold of you?
He did, yes.
Do you want me to?
I let him know they're working up his way to take care of the rock cleanup.
Are they gonna get it all
That
done
on
within the
floor.
time frame?
They're working, I hope for their sake they are, I was really clear the last time, I'm not supporting any additional, time extensions or anything like that, so if they're not done in 4 days by the 15th, I let come what may as far as the financial repercussions on them as a result.
They're kinda pushing it to the limit.
Yeah, they're,
We've both had
and
conversations with them. to
I've
that
called
effect,
them and
so.
I can talk till I'm blue in the face, the only thing I can't do is do it for them, so.
Yeah.
I feel kinda out of place, I was the only person that could stand up and leave.
Well, you're up next. Tammy was going to get Marge, so she'll be coming, so you can.
Yeah.
I have a feeling we might have others.
Possibly. Never know. $652 drainage districts was in the audit.
It's copies
I
here
think
and
that
now.
really should say drainage assessment schedules instead of districts. Cause some of them will want assessment schedule, it's like lat 28.
That was based on the schedules, it's not the number of districts.
Right.
Well, then, yeah, that probably should say a little differently.
And then the reclass report that goes with that.
Cause like this is a different schedule.
Thank you.
For what happened.
This is a schedule and it breaks it up into even more schedules, so.
Yeah, well, it was in our audit that we had 600, what was it, 52 drainage
52.
districts, that's not quite right.
Yeah, that,
Assessment schedule.
you're right, that is inflated a little bit by the breakdown of all of them, yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense to me, if it makes sense to you.
Yeah, I think it would have been tough to cut it up into 600 different, actual distinct drainage districts.
Yes. And even at that, you think about 652 assessment schedules.
That's still a lot, yeah, that's.
It just,
Yeah,
we have one person doing our drainage in the auditor's office, where you have a county that has probably 200 drainage schedules and one person doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's no wonder she's overwhelmed big time.
Right, yeah. The numbers are just enough to make your eyes cross just thinking about it, let
Yeah.
alone actually doing it, so.
Yeah.
And $9 million that's out in warrants is enough to make your eyes.
Oof. Yeah, that's, when you hear the number out loud, that's,
There should be a little less now because quite a few got called in, but I bet it's still at the end of the fiscal period, it was like 9 million when we had all the new ones, and now
Oh,
quite
yeah.
a few of them are called in, so I'm sure it's still 6, but it's still a big number.
right, yeah. There was a lot going on there for a while, so
Oh,
it's,
yeah. Well, we'd had 4 or 5 big projects every year there for a stretch.
yeah,
Big.
it's,
Well, a lot of that came after the floods from, what was it, 2019?
Some of it was started before though.
Yeah,
Was it?
Oh, yeah,
it's,
Absolutely.
but we
Be
did,
nice.
we
The
did get up
engineers are
to,
never fast about anything.
we did get up to 68-inch tile that I thought we never would.
yeah.
Yeah.
I always say the only things about drainage that I'm sure about is that it takes time and it's expensive.
And it's not fair.
Right, yeah, well, we're here to discuss just that.
Fairness at its
I've, myself and the 2 commissioners have tried to cut it up so everyone's equally as unhappy as they could possibly be. And that's, yeah, but that's,
Best
if
place.
everybody's unhappy, I figure I've shot pretty well down the middle.
She is in the drainage room with somebody, but as soon as she's finished with him, she'll be in.
That's all right, we'll just wait. We're gonna have more drainage
Well,
room.
did you have anything for the 2080? Anything you wanted to talk about?
Not in particular, that's, simply the 28E agreement that had been, submitted a few weeks back for the discussion, if there were any sort of changes you wanted to see made regarding the inclusion of the saturated buffers in the wetland design process. Since there were no changes that have been proposed from the county, the response I then got from IDELS was, if you were comfortable with it, it would be fine with them if you signed that current copy, no changes needed to be made, sign that, return it to them. They would sign it and add it as the amendment to that 28E agreement. So that's really no changes, no.
The basics is adding saturated buffers.
Yep, right, yep, that's all it does, is adding the possibility for, consideration and for design of saturated buffers. Nothing that would cost any, additional monies of the counties or of the drainage districts, all still covered as part of that original agreement.
We have signed an agreement once with them, correct?
Yes, this is just an amendment to that, that adds in, they felt more comfortable
If
with
we
the-
add buffers,
Yeah.
Right, if we wanted to consider saturated buffers, which there are some projects that they've had some interest from landowners in that regard, they felt more comfortable that since it wasn't specified originally, that this takes care of that, this lumps those in with it, makes it all just one big part of it.
so I guess I'm losing. You're gonna provide us a 2080 agreement that we're supposed to sign
I
then?
have it.
No, I already have it.
Okay,
And it's an amendment to the original one that we
Yeah.
already did. But it's for all the conservation, nutrient reduction type stuff that we did previously.
so. You wanna do the 2080 agreement first?
That's the first
That's
thing on
on
the
the-
agenda, yep.
Do I have a motion to approve the amended 2080 agreement?
I make that motion to approve.
Do I have a second? I'll second it. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Why don't we do a roll call vote, Mims, 2080?
Plath?
Yep.
Nat?
Yes.
Wactor?
Yes.
Stecker?
Yes.
Jerks?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
You want me to sign down here? Right?
Yep.
We are up to DD 4, lat 28. Set time and date for public hearing,
Acknowledge.
and acknowledge the report, okay?
Yes,
Any annexation?
those are the, those are the two. We got there.
Yeah.
Those are the two reports that I have handed out here. The top one, the stapled copy, is the annexation report on Drainage District 4, lateral 28. There's a tabulation and a map that shows all of the areas that were found to be benefiting from that system. They are then accounted for in that report. And then second, there is the commissioner's report of reclassification of that system. There's lateral 28 and 6 additional schedules that break all of the sub-facilities up off of that. Those are outlined in the report. As far as the schedule that is to be levied is just lateral 28. The rest are for maintenance purposes included but not assessed. They have dollar amounts on them for example purposes only. There are also maps that go along with all of those. I've also provided here for you, Marge, this is the signed original copies as well as the oath of commissioners. The commissioners being myself, Tim Struker, and Rich Rosenmeyer. At the time of the hearing, as we've always done, I like to go into a lot more detail about how those figures were all come up with, how the watershed was determined, and what that, how everyone's benefit shakes out at that time. I could go on, I'm never quite sure what level of detail anyone would like here, but at the hearing, certainly we'd go through all of that.
Originally, it was all under one assessment schedule.
Yes, and there was some, it had been split because of that relief ditch that had been put in. Aside from it all being on one, the other thing that had not been credited for was the request of Jay Goshi to incorporate his main tile system into the benefit that he was receiving from the other system. Essentially, he wanted a reduction.
You wanted a reduction.
Because of the main system that he had put in. There was a factor incorporated for that. It was the lands that were being served, the lands of his directly being served by that, got a 70% reduction from their benefit from the repaired portion of lateral 28. That was in line with what we had used for reduction factors, for tile water that was taking water either into or out of districts. So it falls really in line with prior reclassifications that we had performed. Of course, the landowners will have the opportunity to speak at the hearings, file any sort of objections, and ultimately the schedule of benefits is the percentages, the numbers is all, the board has the final say on what those look like.
So his private tile relieved lateral 28 totally?
What, not, well, it was 28, and then there are several, on the maps, there are several of the branch laterals as
Right.
well, that there are relief being seen. Is the dashed line shows the information for that private main that we received from Jay. And so he got the 70% reduction on lateral 28, as well as the other laterals that he has branched off
So
from.
he got benefit for 62, 64, 63.
Yes, all of them that would, yes, all of them that would have had water,
Okay.
relieved by his system, he received that same,
Percentage?
essentially, yes, because all the factors are multiplied together, when we give his ground a 0.3%, it's taking all of his numbers times 0.3, which is that 70% reduction. So it's essentially, his benefit is reduced across the board on those lands by 70%.
Yeah, and as you said, we'll get more detail at that hearing.
Yeah, and I'll have, I have all the maps with me right now, but for the sake of going through all of it, I think that's, I can answer any questions, or if anybody has any other questions, feel free to stop up to the office, but I go through all the maps and data and everything with the landowners at the time of the hearing.
If not, I would entertain a motion to acknowledge the report and set a time and date for the public hearing on DD4 lat 28.
Tyler, as far as timeline, hopefully we're all done in the field by May 23rd, but do you have availability after that if we pushed it back?
I'm available the 30th, and the 6th as well. So yeah, if you wanted to go even further out than that, the 23rd is the
Earliest.
soonest
Yeah.
that it could be, but you could have it.
I think we'd go postpone it past that.
I would say to the 6th.
To the
That
6th?
Yeah.
would be my recommendation, just hopefully we're comfortable by then, but,
June always feels better on stuff like this.
and I don't think we have any need to rush it, so.
I know the last 3 years we've been done in the field the last 4 days of May, so, I mean, it's.
I mean, I'd knock on something wooden, but that.
It didn't rain on Easter Sunday, so that's a good sign.
I would lean towards June 6th if that works for you.
Yeah, if there's no rush to get anything
Well, we
out
can
for
put it on
assessments.
anyhow. Are we?
The project is done, so we can do the
Yeah,
separate dollar
this
amount,
is just
and we'll just
paperwork.
have the
Yeah,
schedule.
she'll have all the schedules.
Right.
Yeah, so that,
Hopefully,
So yeah,
10:30 or 10 o'clock?
Yeah, whatever, any
Okay.
10 o'clock?
I'd make the motion to acknowledge the annexation and reclassification reports and set the time and date for June 6th at 10 o'clock here in the boardroom.
Second to the motion,
I'll second the motion.
second by Carter. Discussion on the motion? Everybody comfortable with it? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you all. Marge, we will get those notices to you,
okay, perfect.
for that, we've already got them started, so just put the dates in and, get those up to you.
Okay, sounds
Perfect.
good,
Thanks,
thank you.
thanks
Thanks
for
all.
waiting for us,
Yep.
Tyler.
Yeah, no worries.
We have a couple repair requests.
Mine's already done.
So it's mine, or it isn't really, I think it's really Carter's.
Okay, yeah, I looked at that too. That
Oh.
should be Carter's.
What, Carter's?
Right. Yours
Wesley,
should
yeah,
be Carter's?
Wesley.
The-
took
Yeah,
it.
Because it's Wesley. He just came in and made the report and then I looked at it and I thought that's probably Carter's.
Ricel called me, cause
I
he
was
calls
saying,
me all the time, don't
Nice
ask me
man.
No,
why. They had already fixed it.
oh, okay,
Perfect,
It was just a crack in the
okay,
tile.
just a small washout,
Yeah,
that's done.
they were doing tiling and there was a hole, so they fixed it.
yeah.
The four. Yeah.
Do you wanna read your repair?
Yep, it's for Drainage District 91, 5 for Steve Arndorfer, and the main tile, 24-inch tile, was broken and needed repairs. In section 6 of Wesley Township.
Mr.
And Wright's already
Yes.
taken care of that.
Mine is number 6 in section 10 of Greenwood for Jeff Didring. There's a washout near his building site, so we've got that fixed already.
Do I have a motion for the supervisors to handle their repair request? By Plath, second by Wactor. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay.
And Marge, Roger's got info for one, we'll come and get another one made up.
We'll make
Some
one.
more repair requests.
Yeah,
Yep,
Okay, I have a general question to ask. We had, a gentleman for PK one had damages he would like to report, but as a rule, we've already had the completion hearing. And the damages, Tyler Conley had looked it up, and, part of the damages are, he was farming part of the road right of way. So the dollar amount that would be claimed would be approximately $81.30. But as a rule, it wasn't presented at the completion hearing. So your thoughts that it probably shouldn't be considered? or-
I would reject that.
I'd reject it.
Okay, that was just
We're
a,
not gonna, we ain't gonna start that precedent.
no, that's what I thought.
We'll have people coming in all the time and
Yeah.
going back, trying to.
There's a process and it's
Yep.
the landowner's
Rules- rules to follow
responsibility
on that.
to,
Okay,
well, we don't have a way to pay it, to be,
correct. It's already been assessed
Yeah.
and all that too.
it's,
Right.
Yeah.
it's done and
Right,
over
that's
as
the other,
far.
that's another reason.
Okay,
we
Yeah.
really don't have a legal way to pay that. Anything else from Marge?
Thank you, Marge.
Thanks, Marge,
Thanks.
appreciate it.
and Carter, I have some requests if you want.
Yeah, I
when
gotta
you're
come
done.
talk to you.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll keep her busy.
I guess a quick update for FEMA stuff. We've got paperwork for combining 2 projects, which has been a substantial task to get that accomplished, but I've been talking to Marge, Leon, Nate with Iowa Department of Homeland Security called me back while we were in the meeting here, but long story short, once we fully review all that and make sure everything's documented correctly, once we sign it, we'll be able to request up to the federal share of 75% for, and primarily drain 4 is the big ticket item on
DD4,
this,
yeah.
so that'll result in several $100,000 of reimbursement being able to be requested, which is a huge benefit to all those landowners in reducing interest charges, so. Just 2-second status update that way, but we're getting close on it, it's been a long process.
Yes.
Thanks, Marge.
It'll be good to be done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
We have a discussion with our county auditor.
Okay, well, it's good to have the audit done and the audit report behind us, and working with Elizabeth and Gardner and Company is nice. They're very, very thorough. I don't worry about them missing anything. If there's something to find, they will find it. So they do a good job, and I feel comfortable with their reports every year, so it's nice to have that done. The other thing I wanna talk to you about is the quote from Federal Fire Equipment. I think I sent you guys all an email on this. Derek says E911 has plenty of money that they can pay for it, so he is gonna have his, commission approve it, and then the claim will come through you guys for approval, so. And that's, the reason for that is, it's, the reason it needs to be updated over there is because it's not big enough, strong enough, I don't know how that all works, what it is at right now for all the IT stuff going through it, so it has to be updated, so.
So I do have something about that.
Okay.
My brother actually owns that company, so.
Oh, this company?
Yeah, so
Okay.
when it comes through approving the claims on that, do I have to abstain from the entire claim?
Yes, I would, yeah,
Okay.
that would be good practice,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, and I don't know, because of that, do we have to have more than one quote, or is that the company that just does that? I don't know, what do you guys think?
As long as he would abstain from any of the discussion or from the vote, I think we would be safe
We can-
to act upon it, but he
Should be,
can't, he can't give an opinion or a suggestion.
I think 2 quotes or multiple quotes is always better, but,
I don't know if there is such another company.
I don't think it's
I
necessary
don't.
because I wasn't involved in getting the quote. I had no idea that he was even gonna be doing the work,
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
And you
so
still
I meant-
don't.
yeah.
And that's part of the, discussion we had on the audit with the involvement in the procurement, so you're outside of that.
alright, so that's good, I will be gone Friday, our nephew gets married on Friday, and then I will be gone next Friday, for, some medical appointments, but that's all I have.
Big agenda item next week.
Oh, next week, yes. Thank you for reminding me. So next week, we talk about the roof, how would you say that, damper for the Kossuth County Courthouse. Will has some updated bids. The bid from Algona Plumbing and Heating, like he talked about last time, stayed the same, there's no updated cost. And then he got the other bids for the other 2 things that need to be to complete that project. So that'll be on the agenda for next week. And other than regular stuff, claims, conservation claims, veterans affairs, that's all I have so far on next week's agenda.
Thank you. Mr. Platt.
Nope, nothing.
Alright,
Wellness was canceled, so I have nothing.
no wellness?
No wellness.
No wellness in the county?
We're suffering.
Mr. Wax.
I had no meetings, but I did get a chance to talk to Justin Stock with the, Regional Housing Authority to kind of get some information on, who would be a good fit for that position, that appointment. Some of the things he kind of gave me for information was that, they meet on the 4th Tuesday of the month at 9 AM. They just basically handle budget approval, they do not do taxing. We also do not send them money from the county. They have a 28E agreement, and that agreement basically just approves us to appoint someone to represent our county in their region.
So they meet in Mason City?
They meet in Mason City. So some of the things that they actually do is they have public housing that they kind of, they are in charge of maintaining the funds for people that have, disabilities, things like that need public housing. They're the ones that kind of furnish the funds for that, and the funds all come from the state, so nothing county dollar wise. This is basically, as far as our involvement is, we are just appointing a person to represent our county. So, some of the people that he suggested were, economic development. Anybody that's on economic development could potentially, be on this board. Realtors, he said he had several realtors, and just kind of a few, he said there's really no real big background to it, as they just kinda make decisions on the budget and stuff like that, so, if you guys have any ideas of anybody that you could talk to, send them my way and I can get them more information. I'll be kinda doing some checking around too, to see if there's anybody that might be interested in serving on that, but,
So you're gonna have an economic development meeting pretty soon, or?
well, we were supposed to have one on the 28th, but Maureen was gone, so we had to cancel it, and I haven't heard if there's a new date yet.
Be a good
But
time
I
to
will,
ask.
yep, I did plan on bringing that up,
Yeah.
so.
And then, there's also.
I'm sure Maureen won't do it herself.
No.
No,
I think
But
it'd be
someone else from that.
She would be a good person to kind of talk to about that, because,
You got a couple bankers on there, I think they'd fit underneath the criteria too,
Yeah.
to be,
Probably,
yep, he did mention that there were bankers on there too.
yeah.
yeah.
So, and he did state that, according to their bylaws, they don't have anything stating that it only has to be one person, so if we did have more people interested, we could have a delegate and an alternate.
Okay.
But just as long as they can have a quorum when they meet.
I wonder if they've ever updated their 2080 from the
He
ancient one
said
that we
no,
saw.
he said that they haven't updated, I think he said it was like back in 1980 something, when the 2080 was
It was
originally
old.
signed.
It was
Yeah.
old.
Yeah, so, but, other than that, I had some exciting news. Me and Heather are expecting.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
We will be, she's about 10 weeks right now. Due date will be in like November 6th, so we're excited about that.
That is very exciting, congratulations.
That's all I got.
You got
Well,
any news like that stuff?
After topping that,
Oh, I was gonna say too, I got my, Austin Chase brought me down my first bucket of beaver tails.
So now you're a beaver tail expert.
Yeah.
there you go. Yeah, no, I didn't have anything that way, mostly drainage, kinda touched on 4 with the timeline here earlier with Tyler. There's not a lot of work to be done, but they just need to wrap it up in the last couple days, so I'm expecting that it will be done, but
You mean McCartney?
McCarty,
Yeah, McCartney.
yeah, we will see how that gets finished up. Already touched on the paperwork with FEMA. It's mostly been drainage and other normal things, but no big meetings.
Yeah, I got a meeting tomorrow with transportation in Mason City, and other than that, all I did was look at holes in the field. And road ditches.
There's a couple of
I
them.
don't think we'll ever get caught up.
Oh,
again.
yeah, we will.
Not the intakes in road ditches. Every time you drive down a road, there's more. Anything else to come before the good of Kossuth County?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
I'll second.
Got that? Carter, second? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried unanimous. We're adjourned.
Go enjoy the beautiful day.
Thank you, yes, exactly.
Right.